Welcome. Hello, everybody. Now, you can see your favorite former congressman and former J6 tech advisor and former intelligence officer, and somebody who's lied about Iran and Iraq and Eastern Europe, is wearing a tropical shirt. That's because I'm going to have a theme today that's tropical because I was just turned on to a new Australian band called Tropical Fuckstorm. They have a song called Goon Show. The first line is, or not the first line, but I think it might be the third stanza is, it's a golden age of assholes. And guess what it is? Golden age of propaganda, golden age of lies, golden age of credulity, the golden age of conspiracy theories, but it's also the golden age of really bad folks. Now, we've had bad folks in our history, but what I want to talk about today is how things can be twisted and why an ecosystem or media ecosystem can create, I would say, an atmosphere and environment that leads to really bad decisions. But first, before I get into sort of the nuclear portion of this, which I know you guys want to hear, let's talk about something that's connected. And I'm going to tell you how, but it's Vance Boelter. If you remember him, he's the assassin of the Minnesota Democratic politicians, which is absolutely awful. It's horrendous. But I've been turned on to a new conspiracy theories lately, and I want to pass this on to you. And what you're going to hear from far right friends. Listen, I had a lot of fights with the far left over the past few days on their 2024 election conspiracy theories, and I'm going to actually do one on that. But this is one here that should bother you a lot, and that's that Tim Waltz paid this idiot, this killer, this assassin, this murderer, this far right guy, paid him to do, assassinations, specifically Amy Klobuchar. It wasn't in Amy's house, but here's the thing. Here's what I'm getting from people, and here's the ripple effect. And I've actually had 3 calls on this about Denver. Have you heard this? And these are people that either former Republicans or people say, hey, maybe it's possible there was something going on behind the scenes. I mean, it's ludicrous. And I have to talk them off the ledge or say, hey, you can't be my friend because you're an idiot. But here's what I'm going to say to you. If somebody comes up and tells you that, it's not a time to say, your 3 things, right? Where'd you hear the information? What's your source? And why did you come to that conclusion? You get to a point where, like, if you believe anything like that, I don't know if I can trust you to make solid decisions, even around my family or friends, or even to drive my car. Because if you were to believe that, that means there's something wrong. There's a synaptical issue in your frontal lobe. But what it also means is that there's tens of millions of people who are going to believe those silos. And that silo dominates right now, sadly. I know you want to push back, say, Denver, there's these great other, networks coming on, independent journalism, whatever. Nah, they cannot touch the excitement and sexiness of deep state conspiracy theories. I mean, they just can't. They're not going to touch it. So you have a killer who tells people that, Waltz told him to kill people, one being the senator, Amy Klobuchar. And that somehow now we have this ripple effect that maybe this guy was an agent of the Democrats to create some kind of issue here, right? To create discontent and hate. I'm to a point, I love trying to educate, trying to talk about the crazy out there. And just from being trained as an intelligence officer and had to validate sources and, had to make decisions that really was life or death based on the decisions or the information that you have. And, the data that you're able to collect and the data you're able to validate. And the fact that you got to put validated data together to come up with facts-based analysis or a solution for that specific problem set. Pretty good at that. I was good at that. So I'm fairly successful, I'm no huge dude, I'm no Elon, right? No Bezos, but I certainly know how to make whiskey. And that is important. So when you're looking at this disinformation ecosystem, we can skip right over to gaslighting on something called BDA, or battle damage assessment, for the actual bunkers in Fordo, right? So, just a normal intelligence question would be, well, how is their nuclear capability impacted? Well, you're seeing this gaslighting that Fordo was completely destroyed. Maybe, but do we know if the nuclear material is still there? I don't think they do. I don't think our intelligence apparatus has that information at all. I think a lot of this was for show. And it's very hard for somebody like me to have any sympathy for the Iranian government or nuclear facilities. You got to remember, this is somebody who went against them. And I've been talking to Republicans today, former Republicans, never Trumpers, and Democrats, and even a Democrat today. And I tell you, I like to do this. Said, hey, obviously Iran, or maybe Iran didn't have any nuclear capability, but it's Iran. Who cares? You should care. And what I told him is that, yes, they're a bad actor, the Iranian government for sure. And I wanted to bomb them for a long time. Be honest, I'm a military guy. I hate them. I know what they did to our American GIs. I know how the resupply routes killed American GIs. I know about state sponsored terrorism. I know what they've done to America in the past. I know that it's death to America. I know they have an awful regime. The thing is, the person I was talking to, right, the Democrat, had actually served with Iranians, trained with them in the Navy. He was actually on the ship that was deployed in 1980 when the hostages were taken. So he hates the Iranian government, but he loves Iranians because he trained with them in the Navy in the late 70s. Pretty crazy, huh? But when you hear a president who gaslights and lies about what the BDA is, or can't answer those questions, and neither can the intelligence community, the American people are left with, why did we bomb them? Was it convenience? The thing for me is, again, I have this weird thing, right? I go back and forth like, my gosh, probably wasn't legal. We know it doesn't match the War Powers Act. Don't let people gaslight on you. I could do another show on that. Congress should have been involved, right? Even in an advisory role, well above where they were. Those are the Article 1 powers, right? They're inherent in Congress. But it's very difficult for me to feel sorry for Iran at all. And you're just going to have to bear with me on that. So I have to go back to what? I have to go away from emotion. I have to go with the way the fact, make those freaking nuclear sites go away, obliterate them. I love a good 30,000-pound bomb. I used to be a mission planner, with JDAMs on B1s. I used to be air to air. So F-15s and F-16s. I know how it works. Like, I'm an expert, sort of, maybe on older armaments and maybe on our, older missiles, but I keep up with the times, old dog can learn new tricks. But I guess what I'm telling you is, you're like, well, then, linking Vance Boelter, the disinformation there, and you have the gaslighting about Iranian BDA and nuclear bunkers. It's all the same thing, because it's the same silo of people who aren't going to use critical thinking in order to come up with a solution based on data and facts. Tell you what, it's hard, It's hard to be sane in this world, but I want you all to try to stay sane. And I wanted to link these because you have to watch out for conspiracy theories, gaslighting, and propaganda. All of that stuff is just like a miasma of grotesqueness that will eat us away from the inside. And if we do something that a majority of the world thinks, yeah, Iran deserved it, if we're not doing it for the right reasons, what's the cascading effect? And if we have a leadership that doesn't know how to actually deal with crises, and they make one, right? They have a ceasefire after Iran was attacked by Israel and the United States based on nuclear capability, and we don't have solid proof of that. We don't want to go backwards and learn and relearn the lessons of Iraq. So anyhow, it was great to see everybody tonight. Thanks for listening. Love to hear your comments. Love doing this. And just to point out, yes, there's a huge connection between Vance Boelter, the Tim Walz conspiracy theories, and people willing to believe anything that they hear about the Iranian bombings. You all have a great night, and I'll catch you on the flip. Remember, it's going to get worse before it gets worse, but we'll be there when it gets better, won't we? See ya.